first warning came as a ripple through Earth's space detection networks. Subtle anomaly that almost no one noticed at first. Satellites recorded an object entering the solar system at impossible speed, defying known physics. Scientists at global observation stations scrambled, their eyes glued to screens, trying to identify it. But it wasn't the speed or size that sent shivers down. Spines, it was the signature. It carried an energy footprint that Earth had never seen before. A silent, overwhelming presence that radiated power and control. In other words, something or someone had arrived, and the galaxy's most dangerous species had chosen Earth as the meeting point. Dr. Alina Morales stood in the command center, her hands gripping the edge of the console, her eyes scanned the flickering monitors, trying to process the data streaming in faster than thought itself. "It's real," she whispered, though the room was filled with the tense hum of technicians and military personnel. "It's actually real." Outside, the desert base shone under the early morning sun, oblivious to the approaching unknown. The humans gathered there had been preparing for anomalies, but nothing in their training had accounted for the arrival of beings feared across the galaxy. When the vessel appeared in orbit, it was nothing like humanity's starships. Surface shimmered with colors that defied description, bending light and shadow in ways that made eyes ache and minds strain. It was enormous, yet elegant, moving with an intelligence that made every human watching hold their breath. And then, as if the ship itself had a heartbeat, it opened. Small, compact vessels detached and descended toward Earth, each glowing softly. With a faint, ethereal light, they carried passengers who were both terrifying and fragile. Beings that the galaxy had feared for centuries, the young of a species so deadly, no civilization dared challenge them. The humans were ordered to the landing zones, hearts pounding. Soldiers tightened grips on weapons, but no one moved aggressively. Instinct told them this was different. The children disembarked slowly, stepping onto the Earth's surface with a calmness that was almost unreal. They were small, slight in build, yet there was a confidence, an aura that made every human pause. Eyes that glowed faintly scanned the surroundings, taking in the desert, the humans, the sky above. It was a gaze that seemed to measure, calculate, and understand in ways that defied imagination. Dr. Morales watched as one child approached a soldier who had frozen in place. The child's head tilted slightly, a gesture so simple, yet full of meaning. The soldier's fear did not vanish instantly, but it shifted, replaced by a strange curiosity, as if the child was inviting him to see the world differently. Around the base, similar encounters unfolded. Children wandered among humans, touching machinery, observing systems, but never harming. Never interfering beyond subtle gestures that seemed almost like guidance. And yet every person who encountered them felt the weight of power beneath the small, fragile forms. The military was cautious. No one knew what these beings were capable of, and fear coursed through the ranks. Orders were given: maintain distance, keep weapons ready, observe. But the children ignored these boundaries in ways that demanded attention, not obedience. One placed a small hand on a console, and screens lit up with data that humans could barely interpret. Another walked through a security barrier, triggering sensors that responded to her presence alone, yet caused no alarm. It became clear very quickly these were not ordinary beings, and Earth was no ordinary planet in their eyes. As night fell, the desert took on an almost surreal quality. The children glowed faintly, wandering among the humans who had been assigned to protect them. Conversations whispered among scientists speculated on their abilities. Were they psychic? Telekinetic? Capable of manipulating matter? No one knew. All that was certain was that they were alive with intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Soldiers felt unease, mixed with awe, while Dr. Morales experienced a different sensation, a sense of purpose, as though the universe had chosen this moment, this place, and these humans for something far larger than survival. The first night passed without incident, but the tension never left. Every rustle of wind, every flicker of light from the alien vessels, every subtle movement of the children reminded humans that they were in the presence of power beyond reckoning. It was both terrifying and exhilarating. Some soldiers kept their weapons close, but most began to observe quietly, realizing that aggression would only provoke confusion. Trust had not yet formed, but curiosity and vigilance grew in its place. By the dawn of the second day, humans began to notice patterns. The children did not speak, yet they communicated. A glance, a tilt of the head, a simple gesture all carried precise meaning. Machines responded to them in ways humans could not yet control, and subtle adjustments to defensive systems suggested an understanding that was both alien and uninspiring. The humans realized that this was more than a visit. It was a test. The galaxy's deadliest species had entrusted their young to Earth's guardians, and humans were being evaluated. Every move mattered. Dr. Morales felt a chill mixed with a strange exhilaration. Humanity had been given a choice by forces that no one had expected. The alien children were small, seemingly innocent, yet their potential was undeniable. The weight of responsibility pressed on her shoulders, but a spark ignited in her heart. Humans were being offered a chance to prove themselves, to rise to a challenge that no other species had survived. And the first rule was clear: observe, adapt, and protect, not with strength alone, but with understanding, courage, and an awareness that could match the galaxy's deadliest. As the sun rose again over the desert, humans prepared for the next phase of their unexpected duty. The alien children were here, watching, learning, and testing. And humanity's small, unpredictable, yet resilient, stood at the threshold of a challenge that would define its place in the galaxy. The arrival of the forbidden had begun, and the first day had already made it clear. No one else could be trusted but humans. Humans had the chance to earn the faith of the most dangerous species the universe had ever known. The desert was quiet now, but the tension lingered like a heavy fog. The humans had spent the first day watching, cautious and fearful, yet fascinated by the alien children who moved among them with a calm that defied logic. No one spoke to them, and no words were offered in return. But every gesture, every subtle motion, seemed loaded with meaning. Soldiers and scientists alike felt an almost electric awareness. Every decision, every glance could matter in ways they could not yet comprehend. Doctor? Alina Morales paced the observation deck, watching a child approach a group of young soldiers who were struggling to operate a defensive drone. The child tilted its head slightly, then moved a small hand over the control panel. Instantly, the machine responded, performing maneuvers the soldiers had thought impossible. Humans blinked in disbelief. "How?" muttered one, but the child offered no answer, only a faint glow in its eyes that seemed almost like a smile. It was as if it were saying, "Watch, learn, understand." Over the next hours, patterns began to emerge. The children were not simply showing off, they were teaching. But their lessons were not verbal, nor were they direct. A touch here, a gesture there, a slight nod or tilt of the head, it was subtle guidance. Humans quickly learned to pay attention to every detail: a flicker of light, shift in stance, the smallest movement of a finger. Soldiers discovered they could anticipate the children's actions, even react before a gesture fully completed. Scientists noted that every system the children touched seemed to optimize itself. Yet no human understood exactly how. Fear, which had dominated the humans on the first day, began to change into cautious respect. They realized that these beings, so small and seemingly fragile, possessed intelligence and power far beyond imagination, yet there was no threat in their presence. The children did not attack, intimidate, or coerce. Instead, they guided, observed, and challenged in ways that demanded attention and focus. Dr. Morales found herself mesmerized. Every step, every subtle movement was a lesson in observation, patience, and adaptability. One afternoon, the children led a small group of soldiers into the desert for what seemed like a simple exercise. Rocks, sand, and scattered debris created obstacles, and the soldiers expected a physical challenge. But nothing happened at first. Then subtle cues. Of the head, a slight hand movement directed the soldiers to adjust their path, their speed, their stance. Those who ignored the cues stumbled, while those who observed carefully found a rhythm. moving with a precision that felt unnatural yet exhilarating. By the end, they realized the lesson. Survival depended not on brute strength, but on attention, awareness, and instinct refined by subtle guidance. Dr. Morales observed another scene that made her heart race. One child approached a young engineer struggling to repair a malfunctioning energy conduit. The child placed a small hand on the console, and the system realigned itself, humming smoothly. The engineer watched, wide-eyed, as the child's gestures prompted him to understand adjustments he had never considered. He realized he had learned more in minutes from this being than from years of formal training. Every human present felt the same astonishment. These children were not only powerful, they were teaching humans to reach beyond their limits. Nightfall brought no rest. Humans slept fitfully, dreams filled with glowing eyes, subtle gestures, and the impossible lessons of the day. In the quiet hours, Dr. Morales reviewed notes, trying to decode patterns she could barely describe. It was clear this was more than observation. The children were shaping human thought, instinct, and perception. They were testing resilience, patience, and the ability to adapt under subtle pressure. Every interaction was a small puzzle, a challenge, a step toward understanding a species that the galaxy had feared for millennia. Tension remained, however. Soldiers whispered among themselves about the possibilities. Could the children be dangerous? If provoked, could they manipulate more than just machines and strategy? The answer was unknown, and that uncertainty sharpened every decision. Humans quickly learned that the key to survival and to earning trust was attention, patience, and a willingness to learn without fear. Every action, no matter how small, carried weight. By the third day, a subtle transformation had begun. Soldiers moved with increased awareness. Technicians adjusted systems with careful observation, and Dr. Morales noted a new sense of confidence in the human team. It was not confidence born of power, but of understanding, trust, and partnership. We're learning to interpret cues, predict actions, and respond instinctively. Each human became attuned to the silent language of the children, a language of gestures, glances, and subtle guidance that no words could replace. Then, a sudden test arrived. A minor system anomaly triggered alarms across the base. Humans froze, unsure how to respond. The children moved instantly, small hands over consoles, gestures toward panels, eyes glowing faintly. The humans reacted, guided by cues they had learned to recognize. Systems stabilized, and what could have been disaster passed without incident. The lesson was clear. Humans had to act with awareness, trust, and quick adaptation. Failure to notice even the smallest sign could have catastrophic consequences by the end of the week. The humans realized that the children were not only testing them, they were teaching them, preparing them for challenges the galaxy would bring. Every interaction, every subtle instruction, had a purpose. Fear of the unknown remained, but it had transformed into respect, curiosity, and a growing sense of partnership. The humans understood now that the galaxy's most dangerous species had chosen them not because of strength alone, but because they could learn, adapt, and rise to the impossible. Dr. Morales, watching the children settle for the night, whispered softly, "We are learning. We will be ready." The children responded with a tilt of the head, eyes glowing faintly, a silent affirmation that humans had begun to earn their trust. The lesson of the day was complete. Survival, adaptability, and understanding would be the currency of this partnership. And humanity, small and unpredictable, had already begun to prove itself worthy. The calm of the desert shattered at dawn. Simulation exercise, meant to train humans and the alien children together, suddenly became dangerously real. Sensors detected multiple intrusions in orbits, small, fast-moving craft of unknown origin. At first, the humans assumed it was part of the exercise. But the patterns were too erratic, too precise. Dr. Elena Morales felt a cold knot of fear tighten in her chest. This was no drill. The children sensed it too, their subtle glow intensifying, their movements deliberate yet fluid, as if anticipating every possible threat. Soldiers scrambled to defensive positions, weapons ready but unsure how to react. The children moved among them, hands extended, heads tilting slightly, giving silent signals that the humans were beginning to understand. One child approached a weapons console and touched the control panel lightly, suddenly targeting systems. Recalibrated automatically, firing arcs predicting the movements of the incoming craft with uncanny accuracy. A young soldier stared, mouth open, as the child's subtle gestures amplified his own reflexes. Allowing him to engage targets he couldn't have hit alone, chaos erupted as the first enemy ships breached Earth's orbital defenses. Laser beams cut across the sky, explosions lit the void, and the humans felt the raw weight of combat for the first time. Panic threatened to take hold, but the children moved calmly, guiding humans through the firestorm with gestures, glowing signals, and subtle movements. Soldiers followed instinctively, their fear tempered by the trust they had learned to place in these strange, glowing allies. Each maneuver became a combination of human ingenuity and alien intuition, a seamless partnership born of observation. In practice, Dr. Morales ran along the command floor, issuing orders and monitoring systems while keeping an eye on the children. One hovered near the sensor array, fingers dancing over controls that no human had ever mastered. Information flowed, faster than thought. Incoming threats predicted, countered, and neutralized before they could even strike. Another child moved along the perimeter, signaling soldiers to shift positions, avoid hazards, and cover blind spots. Every gesture carried precise meaning, and the humans had learned to respond without hesitation. It was like a dance, fluid and deadly, each step crucial for survival. Amid the chaos, mistakes were inevitable. Squad misread a signal, advancing too far and exposing themselves to fire. But the child guiding them reacted instantly, its hand brushing over their console, redirecting energy shields and boosting their reflexes just enough to save them. Soldiers stumbled, then regained their footing, astonished at how rapidly they adapted under subtle guidance. Dr. Morales realized that humans were evolving in real time, learning to anticipate danger and react with a speed and precision that seemed impossible. The battle spread across the desert sky, a symphony of energy. Blasts, debris, and rapid maneuvers. The children's influence was subtle, almost invisible to an outside observer, yet decisive. Humans fired, dodged, and coordinated in ways they could never have imagined before the children arrived. Small teams moved in perfect synchronization, anticipating each other's actions, covering vulnerabilities, and exploiting enemy weaknesses. Every human felt a surge of confidence, tempered by awe. This was a new kind of warfare, one that relied not only on skill, but on understanding and partnership. Dr. Morales noticed a change in the soldiers. Fear still lingered, but it was now, combined with trust, focus, and adaptability. They were beginning to understand that brute strength alone would not suffice. Survival required observation, patience, and the ability to interpret cues from beings whose thoughts and intentions were beyond human comprehension. One young officer whispered, "It's like they're thinking for us, letting us choose how to act." His companion nodded, realizing the truth. The children were not controlling humans. They were teaching them to become more than they had ever been. As the day stretched on, the enemy craft began to retreat, unable to predict or counter the unusual tactics employed by the humans and their alien partners. The children's guidance had amplified human reflexes, strategic thinking, and coordination to a level that even the most formidable adversaries could not overcome. The humans had survived the first real test, and in doing so, had proven their potential. Dr. Morales allowed herself a brief moment to exhale, knowing that this was only the beginning. Night fell, and the desert became quiet once again. Humans gathered in small groups, tending to minor injuries and sharing astonished stories of the day's events. Soldiers who had once doubted themselves now spoke with quiet pride, reflecting on the lessons they had absorbed. The children, glowing faintly in the darkness, remained serene, observing, teaching, and reinforcing trust without a single word. Dr. Morales felt the weight of understanding settle over her. Humanity had taken its first steps toward becoming more than just survivors. They were learners, adapters, and partners in a galaxy that had feared them. The first true danger had passed, but the implications were profound. Humans had begun to understand that the children were not merely companions. They were guides, catalysts, and mirrors, revealing the potential of a species that could rise above fear and limitation. The galaxy's most dangerous young had chosen Earth as their training ground, and humanity had risen to the challenge. The stakes were higher than ever, and the lessons learned would shape every decision, every action, and every encounter in the battles yet to come. Dr. Morales watched the glowing children one last time before turning to the horizon. "We've learned something today," she whispered. "It's not just about them, about us." The desert lay silent, but the lessons of chaos, trust, and adaptation burned brightly in the minds of every human present. The partnership had begun, in earnest, and the galaxy would soon discover that humans, small and unpredictable as they were, could rise to challenges that no one else could face and survive. The morning sky above Earth's desert base was crisp and clear, but a tension unlike any before thrummed through the air. Sensors had detected massive alien vessels entering orbit, vessels far larger and more organized than the scouts humans had faced in the earlier training incidents. These were no simulations. This was the first real test. Every human present understood that failure could mean death on an unimaginable scale. Dr. Elena Morales gripped the edge of the observation deck, watching as the massive ships moved with precision, their weapons systems already powering up, bristling with energy that could obliterate entire cities in a single strike. Soldiers scrambled into defensive positions, hearts pounding, weapons raised, yet unsure how to counter a threat of this magnitude. The alien children moved among them with calm confidence, subtle glows guiding every step, every action. One child touched a console, and the targeting systems recalibrated instantly, anticipating enemy maneuvers with uncanny accuracy. Another gestured toward a squadron of pilots, their reflexes and coordination sharpening, as though they were extensions of the children's own thought. Humans realized with awe and fear that they were no longer just fighting, they were part of a partnership that had never existed in the galaxy before. The first salvo hit. Energy beams streaked across the sky, cutting into defensive shields, sending explosions scattering across the desert. Panic threatened to rise, but the children's subtle guidance turned chaos into precise action. Soldiers dodged with near-perfect timing, weapons fired in synchronized arcs, and defensive drones adapted instantly to every new threat. Humans who had felt fear moments ago now acted with focus and clarity, moving as if the children were extensions of their own senses. Each small decision became critical. Every human knew that attention and trust were the only ways to survive. Dr. Morales moved through the command center, monitoring every system while shouting orders that were barely necessary. The children anticipated nearly every move, their gestures refining strategy faster than humans could articulate. One child hovered near the main power core, subtly enhancing energy flow and redirecting output to critical shields. Soldiers marveled as weapons. Systems fired with precision they had never thought possible. A single human and a single child together could neutralize threats that would have overwhelmed entire battalions a week before. As the battle escalated, enemy tactics grew more cunning. Alien vessels moved unpredictably, testing humans' reflexes and coordination. One ship broke through the outer defense lines, heading straight for the base. A group of soldiers reacted instinctively, guided by a child whose gestures predicted the intruder's moves. Energy shields were redirected, weapons fired in perfect sequence, and the craft was destroyed before it could strike. Humans and children alike felt the surge of triumph, tempered by the knowledge that this was only the beginning. The desert shook under the impact of explosions. Yet within the command center, humans operated with a newfound rhythm. Every glance, every tilt of a head, every flicker of glowing energy from the children carried meaning. Humans began to think not just of their own survival, but of coordinating with the children to anticipate and counter threats. Soldiers shouted commands, technicians rerouted power, and pilots maneuvered through deadly arcs, all guided by subtle cues that seemed almost impossible to perceive at first. Dr. Morales felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The humans had learned quickly, but the challenge was relentless. Each wave of attacks demanded faster reactions, more precise coordination, and deeper trust in the children. One mistake could result in disaster, yet each success reinforced the partnership. Humans realized they were no longer passive observers. They were active participants in a battle that tested every instinct, every skill, and every ounce of courage. Hours passed like minutes, the sky a theater of fire and energy. Alien ships fell one by one, retreating or destroyed, but the humans did not relax. Each victory was tempered by exhaustion, and the children continued to guide with unflinching calm. Soldiers who had been skeptical or fearful moments before now moved with the fluid precision of those who understood the stakes and the rules of this new alliance. The lessons learned in the quiet desert days and subtle exercises had become real. Humanity had adapted, and in doing so, had begun to earn the trust of the galaxy's most dangerous species. As the final alien ships disengaged and the desert returned to silence, humans took stock of the battlefield. Wreckage littered the ground, and minor injuries marked the cost of survival, yet every human present felt an indescribable sense of accomplishment. They had faced real danger, acted decisively, and adapted under pressure. The children's guidance had been subtle but decisive, amplifying human ability in ways that seemed impossible just days before. Dr. Morales exhaled, feeling both relief and anticipation. The humans had survived their first true encounter, but they knew that the galaxy was watching, evaluating, and waiting for the next challenge. By nightfall, humans gathered in small groups, reflecting on what they had endured. Fear had not disappeared, but respect, trust, and awe had grown exponentially. The children glowed softly among them, a constant reminder of the lessons learned and the path ahead. Dr. Morales realized that humanity's role was clear: adapt, survive, and earn trust, not through brute force alone, but through focus, courage, and partnership. The first real threat had been met, and humans had proven themselves capable. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, they understood that their place in the galaxy was changing forever. The desert night was quiet, but a subtle hum lingered in the air, as if the planet itself acknowledged what had occurred. Humanity had faced the first true trial of the partnership with the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They had survived. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting the potential of a species that had begun to rise beyond fear, beyond expectation, and beyond the limitations of what anyone thought possible. The sun rose blood-red over the desert horizon, casting long shadows across the base that had become humanity's front line. Reports from orbit confirmed the worst fears: a massive alien fleet, far larger and more coordinated than anything humans had faced, was heading straight for Earth. Panic buzzed like electricity through the command center. But the children moved among the humans with calm precision, glowing softly and issuing subtle signals that seemed to synchronize with every heartbeat, every movement. Today would be the ultimate test, and everyone knew it. Dr. Elena Morales watched the first wave of ships breach the upper atmosphere. Energy beams streaked across the sky, striking the outer defense grids with ferocious intensity. Explosions erupted in brilliant flashes, throwing dust and debris into the air. Humans and alien children alike moved with fluid coordination. The soldiers' reflexes, sharpened by prior lessons, combined with the children's subtle guidance to create maneuvers no human unit had ever achieved before. Missiles were launched with perfect timing, shields adjusted instantly, and drones intercepted threats with uncanny precision. Every movement was a dance of instinct and observation. The children guided silently, their gestures and glows almost imperceptible, yet each human knew exactly what to do. One child floated near a squad of pilots, hands extending toward the controls in a motion so slight it could be missed by any casual observer. But the pilots responded instinctively, adjusting flight paths, dodging fire, and returning strikes with accuracy that exceeded every simulation. On the ground, soldiers used subtle cues from other children to coordinate energy shields, redirect power, and counter enemy attacks. It was as if human reflexes had been amplified, instincts heightened, and awareness sharpened to the extreme. Dr. Morales moved rapidly among the stations, issuing orders and observing the unprecedented coordination. One young soldier looked at her with wide eyes. "It's like we can see the moves before they happen," he whispered. Barely audible over the hum of machinery and distant explosions. She nodded, realizing the truth. The children's guidance had transformed humans into a force that combined strategy, reflex, and intuition in ways no one else could anticipate. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and beautiful all at once. The alien fleet unleashed wave after wave of attacks. Energy blasts tore through the sky, missiles streaked toward the planet, and yet humans held their ground. Soldiers who had only days before struggled to anticipate enemy movements now reacted instinctively, guided by subtle glows, gestures, and shifts from the children. The bond between human and child had become seamless, a partnership that amplified every skill, every decision, every instinct. A massive vessel broke through the outer defense ring, heading straight for the base. Panic rippled among the humans. But a child stepped forward, hands extended and fingers tracing patterns in the air. Systems responded immediately. Energy shields flared, weapons locked on target, and soldiers moved with coordinated precision to intercept the threat. The vessel was destroyed in a spectacular explosion. And cheers erupted, but Dr. Morales knew this was just one small battle in a larger war. Throughout the day, humans and children operated in near-perfect harmony. Ground teams, air units, and orbital defense forces all reacted in concert. Guided by subtle cues that made every human aware of the whole battlefield, Dr. Morales noticed the transformation in her soldiers. Fear still lingered, but it had been replaced by confidence rooted in trust, observation, and partnership. Every success reinforced the connection. Every near miss taught them something new. By the time the alien fleet began to withdraw, humans were exhausted but exhilarated. Their minds sharp, instincts heightened, and courage proven. The desert was littered with wreckage, but the humans moved among it with a calm born of experience. The children glowed softly, surveying the aftermath with a quiet satisfaction. Dr. Morales approached one, kneeling to meet its gaze. The child tilted its head, a subtle glow radiating warmth, and in that instant, she understood something profound. Humans had not only survived, they had earned recognition. They had demonstrated adaptability, courage, and skill that even the galaxy's most dangerous species could respect. That night, the command center hummed with quiet activity. Humans repaired equipment, analyzed battle data, and reviewed tactics, all under the watchful eyes of the children. Soldiers spoke in hushed tones, reflecting on what they had learned. "We've changed," one whispered. "I don't think I'll ever see a battle the same way again." Dr. Morales nodded, realizing that the lessons went beyond tactics. They had learned trust, observation, and partnership on a level few species ever experienced. Outside, the desert air shimmered as the children moved among the humans. They did not speak, yet every movement, every gesture, every subtle glow reinforced lessons learned, insights gained, and the trust built between species. Humanity had proven itself, not through brute strength alone, but through courage, focus, and adaptability. And the children had shown that trust, once earned, could transform even the smallest, most unpredictable species into a force that could rival the greatest powers in the galaxy. As Dr. Morales gazed at the stars, the fleet now retreating into the distance, she understood the significance of the day. Humanity had risen to a challenge that no one else could meet. The partnership had been tested, and it had survived and thrived. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. A species once underestimated, small and unpredictable, proving that courage, adaptability, and the willingness to learn could earn the faith of the deadliest beings in the universe. But even as victory settled over the desert, there was a subtle tension lingering. The children glowed softly, as if reminding humans that challenges were far from over. Today had been a test, and humanity had passed. Tomorrow would bring new trials, new battles, and new opportunities to grow. And through it all, the lesson was clear: when humans and the galaxy's most dangerous species work together, No obstacle was insurmountable, no enemy unbeatable, and no challenge too great. The night sky was alive with stars, distant and endless, reflecting the promise of the future. Humanity had proven itself on a level no one expected, and the galaxy would take notice. The bond between humans and the alien children had grown unbreakable. In that partnership lay the potential to reshape the universe itself. Rising together, they had become more than survivors. They had become pioneers of trust, courage, and an unprecedented alliance that the galaxy would never forget. The desert was quiet, but the air was thick with anticipation. Days of tests, simulations, and real battles had passed, and humanity had proven itself capable, adaptable, and courageous. Dr. Elena Morales stood at the edge of the base watching. The faint glow of the alien children as they moved among the soldiers and scientists. Every gesture, every tilt of a head, every flicker of light carried meaning. A silent affirmation of the partnership that had grown stronger with each passing moment. Today, the ultimate revelation was coming, the moment when humans would understand why they had been chosen. A deep hum resonated through the ground as the adult vessels of the deadliest species arrived in orbit, massive and awe-inspiring. Unlike their young, these beings radiated authority and power that seemed almost tangible. The children gathered near the humans, glowing brighter, their presence calm yet commanding. Dr. Morales could feel the weight of the gaze directed toward Earth, and she knew that the planet itself seemed to hold its breath. The humans had done well, but now, under the scrutiny of the elders, their true worth would be revealed. A holographic projection filled the main command chamber. The adults appeared, imposing and alien, their forms shimmering with a light that was both beautiful and intimidating. The voice that followed was deep and resonant, speaking a language humans could barely comprehend, but the children's subtle glows and gestures translated meaning instantly. And Dr. Morales watched as the message became clear. Earth species had been tested, observed, and evaluated. Every action, every decision, every moment of courage had been recorded, and the verdict was unprecedented. You have proven yourselves worthy, the projection seemed to say, conveyed through the children's glowing gestures. No other species has shown the adaptability, courage, and insight that you have demonstrated. Where others would falter, you have risen. Where others would fail, you have succeeded. Soldiers and scientists alike felt a shiver of awe. Humans had faced the deadliest young of the galaxy, survived orbital attacks, and adapted under pressure, all while learning a language of subtle gestures and silent communication. Now the elders themselves confirmed what had already begun. To sink into human hearts, they had earned trust. Dr. Morales stepped forward, overwhelmed by emotion. She looked at the children, their eyes reflecting her own awe and relief. These small beings, so fragile and yet so powerful, had been the bridge between two species that the galaxy had long thought could never meet in understanding. Humans had not only survived, they had learned, adapted, and risen to a level of competence that had never been expected. And now, recognition was being granted in full. Outside, the desert sky shimmered as energy from the adult vessels washed over the landscape. Humans felt the sensation of being observed and acknowledged. A validation of every effort, every decision, and every act of courage. The children moved among them, glowing faintly, their gestures communicating subtle congratulations, approval, and encouragement. It was not merely acknowledgement, it was connection, a bond that transcended species, language, and experience. Dr. Morales addressed the gathered humans, her voice steady but filled with emotion. We have been tested, challenged, and guided. And today, we have proven that we can rise to challenges no one else can face. The galaxy has recognized our potential, our courage, and our ability to adapt. But this is only the beginning. The future will bring more trials, more challenges, but we are ready. We have earned our place. Soldiers and scientists nodded, the weight of responsibility settling upon them, tempered by pride and resolve. The children gathered closer, their glows intensifying in a subtle rhythm, as if signaling that the humans had understood. For a moment, All was still the desert, the stars, the glowing children, and the humans who had fought, learned, and survived together. It was a moment of perfect silence, a recognition of achievement and of potential. The deadliest young in the galaxy had chosen to trust humans, and in that trust lay a new beginning. Dr. Morales walked among the humans, observing their faces, their expressions of awe, relief, and determination. She realized that humanity had not only been tested, had been transformed. Soldiers who had been fearful and uncertain were now confident, adaptive, capable of thinking and acting under pressure with precision. Scientists who had doubted themselves now understood that insight. Observation and collaboration could accomplish what brute strength alone could never achieve. Humans had evolved in ways no one had anticipated. The alien children tilted their heads, a subtle glow radiating outward. And humans understood the final lesson. Trust was earned not through fear, not through dominance, but through courage, awareness, and partnership. Humanity had not only survived, they had demonstrated the qualities that no other species could. The qualities that the galaxy's deadliest held in the highest regard. The bond formed here, on a small desert planet, would echo across the stars as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in crimson and gold. The alien vessels prepared to leave orbit, taking their young with them. The children looked back one last time, their glows conveying a message humans would never forget. You are worthy. You have our faith. Dr. Morales watched as the final lights of the vessels disappeared into the void, leaving humans standing in the quiet desert. Changed forever. The stars above seemed brighter that night, reflecting the promise of the future. Humanity had proven that courage, adaptability, and trust could overcome fear, danger, and uncertainty. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary as small. Unpredictable species rising to meet challenges beyond imagination, earning the trust of the deadliest beings in the universe. And for the first time, humans understood that their place in the cosmos was not determined by size, power, or technology alone, but by their capacity to learn, adapt, and rise above even the most impossible odds. Dr. Morales raised her gaze to the sky, the desert wind whispering around her. Felt a mixture of pride, awe, and determination. This is only the beginning, she whispered. And in the silence of the night, humanity understood the truth. They had earned their place, their trust, and their role in a galaxy that would never underestimate them again.